Most people get food through a system they rarely have to think about. A grocery store looks local, but the food inside it is not. It depends on farms, processing facilities, packaging plants, fuel, warehouse storage, trucking routes, retail scheduling, refrigeration, and payment systems. Under normal conditions, this chain works in the background. A person goes to the store, chooses what they need, and returns home without dealing with the larger structure behind it. That convenience can hide a basic dependency. Most households do not produce much food where they live. They rely on outside transport, outside storage, and outside inventory. Even short interruptions can expose that arrangement. A road closure, supply delay, fuel problem, weather event, labor issue, or local shortage can reduce access quickly. In some cases, the shelves are still there, but the flow behind them slows down. In other cases, the store remains open while selection narrows, prices change, or key staples become inconsistent. This does not mean grocery access disappears permanently. In most places, it does not. But it does show that the average home is structurally separated from its own food supply. The chain between the household and the resource is long. It runs through infrastructure, logistics, storage, and retail systems that the household does not control. When that chain is interrupted, the effect is not only about quantity. It is also about timing and predictability. Fresh produce is affected first because it moves quickly and depends on regular delivery. Refrigerated items depend on transport and cold storage. Staple foods may last longer in warehouses, but they still rely on distribution and retail turnover. For the household, this means food access can become less stable even when the larger system is still functioning. That is why some people begin to look at food production in structural terms. Not as a complete rejection of stores, but as a way to shorten the path between home and part of the food supply. There are several categories of solutions for this. One category is bulk storage. In that format, the household buys food in advance and stores it in shelves, freezers, or sealed containers. Structurally, this reduces reliance on frequent shopping trips. It works well for dry goods, preserved items, and staple ingredients. Its limitation is that it still depends on the external supply chain for replenishment. It increases buffer time, but it does not produce new food. Another category is community-supported access. This includes local farmers' markets, farm shares, direct purchasing from growers, and neighborhood exchange networks. These shorten the chain compared to large retail distribution because the distance between producer and household is smaller. Their limitation is that the household still depends on external growers, seasonal production, and local transport. A third category is indoor production. This usually means herbs, sprouts, microgreens, or container crops grown under household conditions. Structurally, it brings production into the home itself. It can be done in kitchens, spare rooms, shelves, basements, or near windows, sometimes with supplemental light. The strength of this format is space efficiency and repeatability. The limitation is scale. Indoor systems usually support small, fast-growing crops rather than broad household food needs. Then there is outdoor household production. This includes backyard gardens, raised beds, containers, vertical systems, small greenhouse structures, orchard space, and seasonal preservation. Structurally, this is different because it converts part of the property into a local production area. It does not depend on retail inventory in the same way. Instead, it depends on land use, water, soil, timing, planting cycles, and storage planning. This category can be small or large, simple or layered, depending on the property. Within that outdoor category, one practical format is a backyard food system planned as a household-scale layout rather than as separate random garden projects. That is the format this video is about. A backyard food system is not just a few plants placed wherever there is space. Structurally, it is a planned arrangement of food-producing zones on a property. The goal is to organize the available area so that different types of food production support each other over time. Instead of seeing the backyard as open space with isolated features, the household treats it as a working layout with assigned functions. The planning usually starts with the site itself. First, the household looks at the usable space. That includes yard size, sun exposure, shade, slope, drainage, pathways, access to water, and any existing structures. This step matters because food production depends less on abstract gardening ideas and more on the conditions of the actual property. A shaded corner may work for one use, while a warm south-facing wall may support another. Next comes the layout decision. In a planned backyard food system, the space is usually divided by function. One area may be used for staple vegetables. Another may be used for fast harvest crops. A separate area may be assigned to herbs, compost, seed starting, or protected growing. If fruit trees are possible, they form a longer-term layer. If not, containers or compact structures may take their place. The key structural difference is that each space is assigned a role before planting begins. Then, the system moves into production timing. A backyard food system works best when it is not based on a single harvest moment. Instead, the household plans for sequence. Some crops are quick and repeated. Some are seasonal. Some are stored. Some are preserved. Some may be grown indoors during colder periods while outdoor beds rest. This time structure is important because household food planning is not only about what grows, but when it becomes available and how long it remains usable. Water is part of the system too. In a store-based food model, water for production is someone else's problem. In a backyard system, it becomes part of the household design. The property may rely on hose access, rain collection, stored water, hand watering, or simple irrigation layouts. This does not need to be complex, but it does need to be planned. Production without water continuity becomes inconsistent very quickly. Soil and fertility are another structural layer. A backyard food system usually includes some method of maintaining growing medium over time. This may involve composting, mulch, kitchen scrap conversion, or bed rotation. The household is not just consuming plants. It is maintaining the base that allows plants to keep growing. That is one reason a food system is different from occasional gardening. It includes the support cycle, not only the visible crop. In some cases, this format also includes protected growing structures. A greenhouse, hoop tunnel, cold frame, or other small enclosure extends the working season or protects selected crops. Structurally, these additions change the local growing environment by altering temperature, airflow, and exposure. At a household scale, they are often used to stabilize production rather than expand into large output. This type of system can exist in different formats. Some people design it on their own, using direct observation and gradual trial. Others work from structured guides or plans that document a backyard layout in steps. In those guides, the format is usually broken down into components such as space allocation, bed arrangement, crop grouping, seasonal sequence, water setup, compost location, and preservation flow. If the plan includes indoor growing or protected growing, it may also document shelf layout, lighting position, or the arrangement of small structures. When a guide includes built elements, it may show materials lists, dimensions, assembly layout, and the placement of practical features such as paths, beds, containers, supports, covers, and water collection paths. If any powered element is involved, such as indoor lighting or a small ventilation setup, the guide may also include basic power arrangement or equipment placement. In that form, the guide functions as documentation for a repeatable household scale setup. What makes this backyard food system format different from traditional grocery dependence is not that it replaces stores in every situation. The difference is that part of the production happens where the food is used. The distance between the household and the food becomes much shorter. Some decisions move from the retail level back to the property level. The household becomes responsible for planning, timing, water, crop selection, and preservation, but it also controls a larger part of the chain. For some people, this format may be useful as a supplement. It can add a practical layer for homes with yards, side spaces, patios, or even small plots that need to be organized carefully. It may also be useful for households that want a more structured way to think about food access during supply interruptions, seasonal gaps, or price instability. In that sense, the backyard food system is not a single object. It is a layout method supported by tools, growing areas, water access, and timing. It is also important to keep the scale realistic. A household food system does not need to produce everything in order to matter structurally. Even partial production changes the relationship between the home and the external supply chain. A system that covers herbs, greens, some vegetables, seed saving, and basic preservation is already different from a household with no local production at all. So this format is best understood as an additional layer. It does not remove the need for planning, storage, or external food sources in every case. But it does reduce dependence on continuous retail access by shifting part of the process back onto the property. It shortens the chain between the user and the resource. For people researching this approach, there are structured implementation guides that document the full format step by step. These usually show how the spaces are organized, how the production areas relate to each other, and how supporting elements like water, compost, and preservation fit into the larger layout. One such format reference is commonly shared in the video description for those looking into this type of backyard food planning system.